program of this nature, this stakeholders meeting organized by SDF is the first step towards addressing the problems. Because as long as or the more various stakeholders are invited to a round table like this, these problems are tabled and discussed and solutions identified. That is the first step towards addressing the problems. And I think we must commend SDF for this initiative. And Alhamdulillah, these are the first category of stakeholders: teachers, school heads, and other education administrators at local level. And the forum is now engaging them, trying to diagnose these problems and identify solutions. We know there are other layers of stakeholders, the communities themselves. There are other important members of the community who could be identified and invited for a forum or a meeting like this, so that these problems could also be discussed with them. Let's together identify these problems and agree that these are the problems affecting education, and together we come up with solutions. And the last category of stakeholders are the active politicians. If in this category of stakeholders, the teachers and administrators and the community members agree on problems and ways of solving them, maybe at the next stage, if the active politicians are invited and these problems are tabled, discussed, and the solutions identified together with them, then the community or the forum can agree together with those active politicians that these are the way we are going to solve these problems. And if the politicians agree and endorse those solutions, then they can be implemented. So I think when this interaction or forum is sustained to that level, definitely these problems will gradually be solved. Because all the politicians, we agree that politics is part of our problems. But every politician will tell you he is into politics to solve problems and to move the community or society forward, whether he is sincere or not. So when he is invited in a forum like this and problems are discussed, solutions agreed, he has no option but to accept them. So definitely if this is sustained and we are sincere about it and committed, inshallah we are gradually going to solve these problems. For instance, we know now that the government has just come on board. There are careless postings, but even formal and informal people are even posting themselves into various positions. We cannot be able to address the problem now, because most of the people who participated in politics did that in order to maybe grab those positions and the rest of it. But even if some damages are done at this stage or now, if we continue to interact like this and gradually maybe come up with selection procedure of appointment into any leadership position in our education institution, it don't have to be implemented this year or next. Maybe in the next 2 years, we can continue to dialogue and agree these are going to be our selection procedure for appointment into headship of our schools. There shall be competitive selection procedure, objectively designed, and everybody will participate. And at the end of it, whoever maybe perform very well and is adjudged to be the best should be selected, irrespective of his political affiliation or whatever. If we do it that way, we can achieve it. We cannot achieve it this year, but if we continue to dialogue and come up with it, and everybody agree that this is the best way to go, in the next 2 years, when the political tension subsided and things are going well, if as community who are directly affected, we agree, okay, this is what we want, I am sure politicians will support that proposal. So I will task SDF to continue with this. Because no politician will tell you he is a destroyer. And if you bring him to a table like this, he will agree with problems. And if you come up with solutions, he will have no option but to endorse it. So let us work towards forcing them to agree on a gradual process of addressing these problems. We don't have to be in haste or rush, yes. Gradually come up with that proposal and have a time frame of gradual implementation. Inshallah, if we do that, we are going to solve this problem. So that is the first suggestion I want to propose. And secondly, the teachers themselves are doing more harm to the systems and the politicians. Because in the past, even in the past, politics and leadership has always been something that is being manipulated. Even in the past, appointment of people into position of authority is not 100% on merit. You can have instances whereby a head teacher may be appointed for one reason or the other. There are more competent people in that school than him. But why was it then the system was still working? Because the teachers were committed and hardworking. Even if the head teacher have one problem or the other, the teachers under him do not even bother themselves with the leadership. They were there to teach and they were committed to teaching. And that was why the schools were progressing. So accepted that the politics is causing damage. But let's agree also ourselves, we as practicing teachers, we have more problems, and our problems are causing more harm to the system than even the politicians. Because even the head teacher, if he has problem, if individual teachers are all doing their work very well, definitely the damage will be very minimal. But so we are not doing our work the way we're supposed to do it. That is why in most cases you will find teachers during school hours, they will just be under the shade of trees. Lamentation, raining curse and abuses on the leaders, that they are not comfortable, these are their problems. But they are not entering class and interacting with these pupils. I was at inspector department at Subeb. You will go to a school and find a situation whereby there is a class 6 pupil who cannot even identify English letters, A, B, C, D to Z, talk less of writing his name. And this is a pupil who spent 6 years in that school. And coincidentally, you may come across one of the teachers that was there for 6 years. So he spent 6 years with that pupil, and that pupil could not even identify English letters. How do you blame government for this problem? That teacher is not serious. If it were in serious nation, he can even be hanged. Yes, you cannot be paid for 6 years. There is a pupil under your care and he cannot even identify A, B, C, D to Z. You're supposed to be hanged. So, and these problems are too much. And the inspection is rotten. When inspectors go into a particular LGEA for inspection, it's more or less like Rangadi. We know the practice of Rangadi in our old political system. Inspectors will go there, interact with EL, extort him, get some money. Food will be prepared for them. They will be given money at the end of the day. Sometimes as team of inspectors will come to an LGA that you know the problem of that LGA is the ES and some people at the office. They are very bad and they're supposed to be condemned and removed. But your report will not reflect that. Simply because you are gratified. You are giving a token before you leave. And you cannot even mention the true problem of that LGEA. So you see, that is another problem. And SDF can come into solving this problem in our locality. If SDF can come up with an inspection mechanism of complementing the LGEA, they will be regularly going around schools, seeing what is going on, documenting problems and reporting them the way they saw them. Believe me, gradually also these problems will be solved, because LGA officials, they will just go there to identify people that are not there so that they could find them their salaries. They are more interested in people that are not in schools than what the people they met in school are doing in the classes. Because at the end of the day, it is those fines they will accumulate and it will serve as their income. So they are not going there to do inspection properly. The motive is very polluted. But if SDM now, as an independent stakeholder, could come in to support them and remain objective in their inspection and reporting what they saw in various schools, believe me, these problems could also be gradually solved. Because by the time when you come to a school and identify a particular teacher that is not doing his job, or he is not even attending, and you document it as it is, maybe by the time when you come 2, 3, 4 times, seeing the same problems, all your respective reports contain problem about 1 or 2 particular teachers in a school. By the time when you compile your report and approach relevant authority that this teacher has this problem and these are your recommendations about him, believe me, that relevant authority must act. Because you are now approaching them with factual information about that particular teacher or group of teachers, that this is what you are doing and this is not hearsay, this is scientifically established. And you believe unless this solution is taken, the problem will not be solved. By the time when your presentation or your request is backed by factual or empirical evidence, government will have no option but to act. So let us also come up with an inspection mechanism like that so that we can help government. Because their hands will be tied not to act. Whether they like it or not, they will act. Because if we allow ES and his team, of course they are trying, but sometimes they will not do things the way it is. Because of one problem or the other, sometimes they will see problems, but they will not report them the way they see them. As long as our reports are not objective and absolutely correct, then whichever steps we take toward implementing those reports will not solve problems. But if the reports are clean and objective, believe me, definitely solutions or implementing those reports and recommendations will gradually address these problems. So as we all know, the problems are multifaceted, but I believe if teachers continue to do their work the way they're supposed to do it, because Imam mentioned of interest. Those earlier generation of teachers he mentioned, like Barade, who is here, who is an experienced old headmaster and education administrator, and also Abakar Tambari, they are all here. During their time, they had interest in the job, and they were patriotic. But teachers of this generation are not patriotic. They are not there to impact on those pupils and make sure that they are good. They do not treat pupils like their children, like it used to be in the past. So we must agree that as teachers, it's our problem, because we are not patriotic to the job and to the nation. So if we now change our attitude as teachers and start to be patriotic and committed to this job, believe me, what is important is the teacher and student. Forget about any maybe instructional material. Even if there is nothing, if there is a committed teacher and a committed pupil, instruction or teacher and learning will take place. Of course, instructional materials and other facilities will assist. But in the past, education was taking place, there was progress, and there were not all these facilities. Simply because there were students ready to learn, and there were teachers committed to the job. So as teachers, let us remain committed to this job. Let us be patriotic and God-fearing. Because if you are going to your place of primary assignment as a teacher, and you are not going to the class regularly, on the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will punish you, because you are not just employed to go to Nizamiya from 8 to 2. No, you are employed to go there and teach. Even if you are there throughout and you are not going to the class, you have not done your job. And on the side, in the sight of Allah, you have transgressed and you will be punished for that. So that commitment from teachers is very important. It's the number one thing we need into solving these problems. All other maybe solutions and steps are secondary, because no matter the situation, if we are committed and we continue to do it with commitment, definitely the result will be visible. Of course, there are problems that are responsible for losing interest in the job, and we know the condition of service is part of it. In the past, your salary as primary school teacher can take good care of you and your family. But at the moment, if you are at LGA and receiving less than 20,000, we know for sure this is terribly bad. Because even if you are not having family, there is no 20,000 in our present socio-economic condition can take you for 30 days. So, but it's part of what government is required to do to address these problems. Because no matter how patriotic, God-fearing, and committed you are, if you are always starved, hungry, and not able to take your immediate basic needs, your commitment will not be as it's supposed to be. So government is supposed to do something about this. We know part of our problem is that we have so many employees. If you go to local government and our ministries, you will find a ministry with 2,000 employees. In a ministry where 50 people are enough to run that ministry, you will see 2,000. Because over the years, the leaders and politicians were doing a lot of wrong things, which contributed to our sorry state of affairs. So there are some establishments are overstaffed. Therefore, had it been those staff there were not blindly recruited, and government only employed a reasonable number of staff needed to do the job, and they are taking good care of their employees, this problem will have been solved. But at the same time, government can still do something to increase the salary of teachers, because I'm sure even breakfast for 30 days, 20,000 naira cannot do for a family man. 1,000. Good breakfast, there is no way with 1,000 you can have a good breakfast in your house. So when your salary cannot take care of your breakfast, forget about lunch and dinner. Then we know that is why if you look at your faces, very sympathetic. Yes, very sympathetic, because you are not eating well. Yes, but do you know one funny thing? Even if you are receiving 5,000, since you signed the acceptance letter that you will do this job with 1,000 or 20,000, as a Muslim, you must do it, because if you fail to do it, Allah will punish you. Yes, because you accepted the offer. What you will do is simply to resign. If the condition is so bad, you will resign and say, okay, this salary will no longer sustain me, I am resigning, I will go into a business. That is what you do as a Muslim. But as long as you remain accepting that job and you are not doing it, no matter how bad the condition of service is, wallah, if you do not do it well, on the day of judgment you will be punished. So there are, we know the time will not permit us to continue, and alhamdulillah, the previous speakers have been able to identify some solutions toward addressing this problem. And what I only want to stress is that SDF should sustain this interaction. Let us continue to come together, discuss these problems, agree that there are problems and these are the solutions, and gradually adopt it, and we come up with a timeline of implementing the solutions. Gradually, inshallah, these problems are going to be solved. Thank you, and assalamu alaikum.